Hello and welcome to another video, and a very special video at that, because this is the first video I record after hitting 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you very much to all the people who helped me get there, and also a special video because this is a very fun and very strong team for the Open Great League. With Water Gun Lantern, you need Water Gun for a better steel matchup with this team. And then two of my favorite Pokemon in Great League, Froslass and Charizard in the back. If you set them up correctly, yes, sometimes you're going to run into a Bastion in the back, and it's going to be a very bad time. But most of the time, if you get some energy advantage or a shield advantage in these two in the back, it's going to be a very good time. The team is very weak to Lantern, and especially Spark Lantern, but it is possible to play around it, as you're going to see in this video. Going into the first game, we lead into the mirror. Have Water Gun, please. It does have Water Gun. We're also going to face some Spark Lanterns in the future. Don't you worry, you're going to see how we handle those. But this is a pretty neutral matchup, obviously. I lose CMP, which I tend to do with the IVs I have on my Lantern, which is why I like to play this a little bit differently. If I go for a Thunderbolt the second time around, I'm probably going to lose CMP again. And then their Lantern is just going to have a lot more HP. And just take me out. Whereas if I go for the Surf instead, they have to go for a Thunderbolt still in order to take me out, and I leave them with a lot less energy or a lot less HP, so I can farm them down with my Froslass. Now we bring in Froslass, and we just about farmed them down. They were at the Surf at that point. They bring in a Shadow Alolan Ninetales with Charm. Shadow Charizard has a good matchup here, but with Charm, the Alolan Ninetales can bring Charizard very low if it still has one shield. So I would like to grab the second shield before swapping in my Charizard. And we do. Very nice. Now we bring in the Charizard. Of course we have to shield everything. Charizard is so frail. They go for a Wither Ball. And I choose to over farm optimally here, as to right before they get to the next Weather Ball. Maybe I should have prioritized a bit more HP on my Charizard, because now if they have fast move pressure in the back, I'm gonna be quite screwed, and these wing attacks hurt a lot. We get to a Blast Burn. This is not quite enough to take out the Noctowl. Can we get to another move? We cannot. It takes us out. It's gonna be a fast move down. And it's a simultaneous KO. Unfortunate. GG. Next game, we lead into the number one enemy for this team, Spark Lantern. Yikes. But the good thing about seeing this in the lead is that, well, it's not in the back, and also against Lantern leads, our backline usually has quite good matchups in the back. So we go for a Thunderbolt, lands, and I would like to get some more chip damage if they will allow me, and they do. They decide to overfarm. So I get to another Surf, and they shield it. I just wanted the chip damage, but getting a shield is really good. Even though they still have a bit too much health for us to farm them down. They go for a Thunderbolt. Now we can bring in Froslass. They still have a lot of energy. My play here is, I feel, to just save 2 shield for Charizard, because usually when people lead Lantern, they're quite weak to Charizard in the back, or a lot of the times, so just having a shield advantage to Charizard might be pretty good. Go up to right before they get to the next move, go for the Avalanche. I take out the Lantern. Now we have enough energy to get to another move, but they bring in a Registeel. No point in throwing energy on the Registeel, because a Blast Burn is enough to take it out, so we only need to throw one move here. Go for the Blast Burn on CMP. They shield it. Go for a Zap Cannon. And now they have no more shields left. They must be very weak to Charizard. It's a Noctowl in the back. They realize this is just not going to happen, and they concede the match. Very good game. Next game, we have a very neutral lead against Obstagoon. They throw off the 6. Is this an Obstruct? I haven't seen a lot of these. It is an Obstruct Obstagoon. So they raise their own defense, drop ours. Now go for another move. Again, I don't like to use shields on my Lantern. Some people would probably use this as like an ABB team. I would rather just kind of use Lantern to maybe grab a shield or like set up my back 2 Pokemon. Although sometimes you do get punished by a Bastion. I realized that if I stay in with Lantern, I'm gonna get farmed down, so I decide to swap out to Froslass. This is not like an ideal position because they do get to another Night Slash, which we have to shield, of course. Now we can overfarm, go up to right before they get to the next Night Slash, throw in the middle of their fast move. And we take out the Obstagoon. What do they bring in? They bring in a Jirachi, of all things. We have a Spice Lord in the building. Go for the Shadow Ball. This should grab the shield. Now we can bring in Charizard. It takes 4 for the first Doom Desire and 3 for the second one. And they're at 3 now. They go 1 over, then throw their move. Now they should be 2 away. They try to catch a move on Meganium, I think, but we decide to overfarm instead and go for the Blast Burn. And this is enough to kill an entire family of Meganiums. Boom! We get to another Blast Burn on the Jirachi. They're just very weak to Charizard. Boom! Take out the Jirachi as well. Very nice sweep by Charizard there. Next game, we lead into Galarian Stunfisk. And this is very close in the Zero Shields. I like to play the Zero Shields generally because sometimes they bait, especially when you have Water Gun. And also because I have such good IVs, my Lantern can actually survive the Earthquake and get to another serve. So we survive it, and they decide to go for a Rock Slide. This is fine. Now we're going to be able to get a little bit of energy on whichever Pokemon we decide to bring in. Bring in the Charizard. And they bring in a Ninetales. I'm thinking they're going to want to throw before I get to my Blast Burn. So I decide to go for the catch on 5. And we catch the Weather Ball on Froslass. Save all the energy on Charizard. And they bring in a Trevenant and CMP with the Seed Bomb. They go for an undercharge here because they want to set up my Froslass for the farm down so they can get energy on Ninetales. But I realized this, so I also undercharge it because I don't want to take out the Trevenant. If I take out the Trevenant, then Ninetales is going to come in and farm my Froslass down, come up with a lot of energy. So I want the energy off of this Trevenant. My opponent wants the energy off of the Froslass, which is why we kind of just stand there and look at each other. I take out the Trevenant, and I go straight for the Blast Burn. Most people, they just expect the bait when they have 2 shields. So straight for the Blast Burn, boom, take out the Alolan Ninetales. Very nice. Next game, we lead into a Skarmory. They save swap Sableye. If you're quick enough, you can win this in the 2 shields with Shadow Charizard, straight Dragon Claw against Sableye. But I wasn't quite quick enough, unfortunately. So this is gonna be quite awkward. See if we go for the Dragon Claw, go for another one. Because they're over farming so much, it wouldn't make sense for them to no shield this. So we get to the 3rd Dragon Claw. Is this enough to take out the Sableye? Not quite. And they get switch and they come out with a lot of energy. I'm thinking that because it was a Skarmory in the lead, they must have a response to Lantern in the back. But they might not have a response to Froslass. So I'm deciding to just pretty much sack my Lantern, take the 2 foul plays on the Lantern, and then bring in my Froslass to get a little bit of energy. They bring back in the Skarmory. Unfortunately, 1 move is not enough to take out the Skarmory, no matter which move you go for with Froslass, so I have to load up the 2 Avalanches. I could have probably gone for the second one there. That was probably the play. And here, I'm just going to pause this. Most people, when they have a 2-turn fast move and the opponent has a 3-turn fast move, they're 1 wing attack, 1 air slash away from their move, I should say. Most people, as in my position, will go for just 1 Powder Snow and then go for the Avalanche, which is why my opponent makes a very good play here. They wait a turn and then they swap out, and I fall for it. Very poor by me to not recognize they were standing still with the Skarmory. But the Medicham has to throw 6 counters before it, or 8 counters in order to get to a move that is threatening to Froslass, so I can't just overfarm a lot here and CMP tie them on the Psychic or Dynamic Punch, and then we get to the Avalanche anyways. But very well played by my opponent to make that play. Next game, we lead into a Swampert. Shadow Swampert does win the 2 shield, even against Water Gun Lantern, straight Hydro Cannon. So I'm expecting them to probably go for that. I do throw in bad timing, which is not ideal. Go for the surf. Even if they earthquake me here, I'm fine with just taking shield advantage. And they do go for the earthquake. They still have a bit of energy. I bring in my Charizard. I was gonna shield this regardless, so I would rather overfarm on Charizard. And I become quite known as someone who likes to throw in CMP when I can. So I'm expecting if I go up and make it look like I'm gonna throw in CMP, they might try to catch the Dragon Claw on something, which is exactly what they do. So they bring in the Stunfisk, we throw 5 more wing attacks, and go for the Blast Burn right before they get to the Rock Slide. And now it's gonna take 5 more wing attacks. That's much shots for them to get to another Rock Slide. So we throw 5 more and then go for the CMP and Stunfisk. I have to be very wary because I don't have any shields. The Swampert does have a move. If they bring it in, I want to go for the Dragon Claw immediately because Shadow Charizard does win CMP. So I'm waiting to see what comes in. It's a Noctowl, so I bring in Froslass. Save the energy on Charizard. They go for a Shadow Ball, does a lot, and generally want to make it a habit to just try and get as low as possible before throwing your moves in these situations. There is no real reason for it because it doesn't really matter how much energy the Swampert gets. I have the move on Charizard, and we get off the Dragon Claw on CMP. Very nice. Good game. Next game, we lead into another Lantern. Does it have Water Gun? Does it have Spark? It has Water Gun. Nice. So once again, pretty good neutral matchup, of course. Go for the Thunderbolt immediately. I like to mix things up when I know I'm making a YouTube video. Just, in case some of my future opponents are watching this, I want to seem unpredictable or be unpredictable. To go for a Thunderbolt. Once again, instead of risking it going for the CMP, I would rather just make sure I put their Lantern into farm down range. I don't really need switch, I don't think. So I'm just gonna let them take me out and then bring in the Froslass afterwards again. But this Lantern, they overfarmed a little bit, so they just about get to a surf. But once again, with a Lantern lead, I generally like to save my shields for Charizard. They bring in their own Charizard, so we go for the Avalanche immediately, and then we're gonna swap out, because I don't want to allow them to get up a lot of energy on their Charizard. And obviously they're gonna bait here, but a Dragon Claw still does so much damage. So of course I'm gonna shield. And I allow them to get to another one here, because now I can wing attack them into a range where I only have to throw a Dragon Claw. It takes 5 for the next Dragon Claw, so go up to 3, and then throw, and now I'm gonna be able to throw my second Dragon Claw before they get to their third one, if they decided to shield. And now they bring in a Gliscor. We go for the bait. Do they shield it? They do shield it. We get to the Blast Burn. Is this enough? Of course it is. Boom! Take out the Shadow Gliscor as well. Oh, I love Shadow Charizard. Next game we lead into Trevenant. Yikes. Have to swap in Froslass. This is not a good matchup for Froslass. Trevenant is like probably the worst lead you can see. They go for a Seed Bomb and then try to catch our Avalanche. Froslass actually wins the Zero Shields against Trevenant, so that's probably why they played it like this. Go for the Shadow Ball on Lantern, and they go for the Surf straight away. It's pretty nice we lured out the Lantern. Now Charizard doesn't have to see it. But of course, Lantern is still going to be locked into their Trevenant. So, let's see. They go for another Thunderbolt on our Lantern. And I make a huge mistake here. My play was to throw one turn before they got to the Thunderbolt, but I mistimed it and went for the CMP instead. So now I'm going to have to take the Thunderbolt, and yeah, that was not nice. And here I try to undercharge it because, let me just try and explain. If their Lantern survives on very low HP, I get to swap out, but they also have to spend a turn swapping out if they want to swap. But now they can just bring in a Pokemon. It takes 0 turns for them to bring it in, and I have to spend a turn swapping in my Charizard, so I get in down on energy instead, which is what I didn't want happening. They bring in Trevenant, and they have a Stunfisk in the back. Fun fact, Charizard actually wins the 2 shield against Stunfisk if you bait twice, but with 2 wing attacks advantage, you only have to bait once, We bait the first one, and now we can go straight Blast Burn and still win this. We go up to the CMP, throw the Blast Burn. If they shield it, we're gonna be able to CMP them at the next one, but they no shield it, and now there's only a Trevenant left. They get to a Seed Bomb. Will they be able to get to another one? They will not. We farm them down, and another Shadow Charizard sweep. That's the reason why it's my favorite Pokemon. Next game, we lead into not only a Spark Lantern, but number 3 on the GPL leaderboard with a Spark Lantern. Yikes! We have to stay in, of course, go for the Thunderbolt. Hope that they're going to allow us to get to the serve so we can get a bit more chip damage. But this opponent does not. So now the Lantern still has a lot of HP. We have to bring in the Froslass. Kind of hope they stay in, because we really don't want to see the Lantern on our Charizard. Again, Lantern lead. I tend to save my shields for Charizard. I go up to right before they get to the next move. Go for the Avalanche. It does about 26% this, so it is enough to take out despite being resisted. And they shield it. So now we have a shield advantage. Again, I'm still just gonna save my shields for Charizard. I wait a turn here, see if they swap out. Very nice. Not throwing the Avalanche there. So we get off this Shadow Ball onto Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales, and now we put it into Wing Attack down range, or into a range where we can throw 2 more Wing Attacks here and go for the Dragon Claw on CMP. Takes 5 for the first, 4 for the second Weather Ball, of course. So now we can go for the Dragon Claw. I could have also spent the shield and farmed down instead. Don't know which play was the best. I like to keep hold of my shield. The Lantern still has 2 sparks worth of energy, so I need to be aware of that. They bring in a Gliscor. We go for the bait once again. Will they shield it? They do. And now they're overfarmed by 1, so they're 3 away from their next move. They're also 3 away with Lantern. They try to catch the Blast Burn on their Lantern. We throw 3 more Wing Attacks to throw right before they get to their turf. Now, can we outpace the Gliscor? We do. We get to the Blast Burn on CMP. And we take out the Gliscor. Boom! This was such a good game. I was out of my seat after that one. That's one of those games that just makes me smile. Next game, we lead into a Shadow Alolan Sandslash. Very cool spice that I'm starting to see more and more. A Bulldoze only does about 57% despite being super effective. So I was gonna let it go even if it was a Bulldoze. A Surf does about 40%. So I think it's enough to take out from here, which is why I go for it. And now I'm thinking, I showed that I'm not gonna shield my Lantern. Now they're gonna go for it. And they do, so we call it correctly. Sometimes it's gonna happen, sometimes it's the other way around. It takes 8 for the first Bulldoze, 7 for the second one. This was only 5, it's a nice punch, we don't have to shield it. And now we can farm down the Alolan Sandslash, come up with so much energy and switch advantage. They bring in an Azumarill, I go for the Thunderbolt right away. And I just have to stay in. I didn't think in the moment I was gonna be able to get to a Thunderbolt. I might have. Maybe. I don't think I would have. We have to stay in. We have to get the Froslass onto this Azumarill. Cannot have Charizard on it. They overfarm a little bit. Go for a Hydro Pump. So now they're at 1 bubble. So go for a bit of a risky CMP here. Thinking I want to come out with enough energy to get to a move on whatever they have in the back. We take out the Azumarill. And they bring in a Froslass. We get to the Shadow Ball. This should grab the last shield and up a shield. This Froslass is just not going to have any chance against Charizard. My opponent realizes it and concedes the match. That was the last game. And as you're going to see, I cannot hit Excellence on a Skarmory. But I can reach 3254 elo in GPL. Very nice. That was the last battle for today, and overall, I really loved this team. I played it primarily to have fun with 2 of my favorite Pokemon in Froslass and Charizard, but it ended up working incredibly well as well. Usually people run this with Noctowl, you might have seen it before. If it doesn't work with Charizard or you don't have it, you can definitely use Noctowl instead. Other than that, fun fact of the day, a good Froslass, as in a really good Froslass, beats a good Sableye in the twos with 2 Powder Snows advantage. That is if the Sableye does throw at least one move. It's a very good matchup to be aware of. If you like what you see, or you feel like you learned something, like and subscribe. Other than that, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.